So it might seem like there's a big loophole in Christianity. On the one hand, you've got the idea that Christians want to do good things and be good people. But on the other hand, why should they be good when they're forgiven anyway? So today we're going to do a crash course on what the Bible says about good works. And when it comes to good works that Christians do, I want to handle this delicately because I know that some of you might feel like you've been burned on this. There was a Christian or maybe even a group of Christians who did something wrong to you and they never came back to make things right. For others of you, maybe you are the Christian who's struggling to do what's good, but you just can't make any progress to change your life. The Bible actually tells us why there's this struggle and at times an inconsistency in the way that Christians live. And it's brought out for us in Romans chapter 7. The Apostle Paul, as he was wrestling with doing good himself, put it this way. He said, "So I find this law or this truth, this principle at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. Though I want to do good, evil is right there with me." For a Christian, we have this natural reaction to want to pay forward what God has done for us. It's incredible to think about the way God loved us and the way that he sent his son into this world to rescue us from sin, from death. It's incredible to think about the grace of God and what that means for a person who knows the darkness of their own sin. And grace means the simple unearned favor that God has for us, the love that we could never earn or deserve. We as Christians simply want to pay forward to the people around us what God did for us through his grace. But what Paul recognized is that as long as we're on this side of heaven, we will continue to have a sinful nature that completely works against that. The sinful nature despises the whole idea of showing people grace. You should only give them what they deserve. The sinful nature abhors the whole idea of selflessness. It will hold on to any advantage that it can possibly get. So as long as we're on this side of heaven, there will be a very real battle being fought. There's this desire to do good and pay forward what God did for us, but there's also the sinful nature that will work against it. So there are two things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to this struggle. First of all, God's favor for you doesn't change based on the presence or absence of good works. You can't improve what Jesus already did for you. God loves you, and he sees you as his own child because of what Jesus did on the cross and in the empty tomb. The second thing to keep in mind is that when it comes to the good works we do, God never compels a person by guilt. It's never that you have to live up to a certain standard, but rather what we see God do is he always motivates us by grace. No matter how often you might fail and lose that battle with the sinful nature, God never calls you a guilty person who needs to make up. Rather, he comes to you with grace day after day to call you a forgiven person who gets to live in the peace of that forgiveness. So as you think about good works, there really isn't a loophole. God isn't after a conformity of our behavior. If he was, he would use guilt to get an immediate response. Guilt might lead to an immediate change in behavior, but it's grace that leads to a transformation that lasts for a long time. And our God is a God of grace. He's after your heart. He's not after your behavior. And so when it comes to the whole idea of good works within Christianity, there is no loophole because God is after our hearts.
Did you enjoy this video? Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss a single message. Click right here.